So now this is going to be on my YouTube channel, and then later today or tonight, I will share it with the Beth Sedek page, and that way everybody can go ahead and watch.
Woohoo! Okay, good. And
all right.
That's good.
So now,
Alexa, stop.
So now I'm going to admit people who are waiting, and I'm going to make you host again, Sahava. And
Okay.
I wish everybody a good class.
Yay!
So greetings from Colorado, everybody.
Oh, that's right. You're in Colorado.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So
That would explain it. Okay, hold on. We have a few more people in the waiting room. That is perfect. Oh, Adam, before you go, do you recall how to share sound?
how to share sound. I think
Yes.
when you share a screen.
I have an option to share a sound.
Yes. So click on that right now. See if that works. See if you can see it.
Okay.
These young whippersnappers.
That's us. That's us to
You're
the
doing
T.
some pretty good whipping, Marcia.
That's what we have here.
There we go.
Okay, so if
You
And
should be,
then-
yeah. So did you see an option to share sound on that?
I'm looking.
I think you have to.
Yep, I got it.
Perfect.
Yeah,
All right.
perfect.
All right. Sahava, have a wonderful class. Everyone enjoy Sahava and the material. And I will. Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, I will see you. God will everybody soon.
Bye, Rabbi Adam. Thank you for your Zoom assistance, and I hope
Absolutely.
you're having fun at your conference.
Learning some interesting things. I'm looking forward to teaching a little bit about some of what I've learned.
Very nice. All right. Have
Cool.
a good evening, afternoon, since you're in Colorado.
Exactly. All right. Take care. Bye.
Hello, everyone. How are we doing today?
Hi. Good.
Good.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. That is the best that you can ask for. Oh, good. There's more people. Hold on. Very good.
This is what I need.
Perfect. All right. I think we have pretty much everyone. So that's fantastic. Okay. Fantastic. So, not last Monday, because I was in Connecticut at a conference, but the Monday prior, we had our very first class, which I believe everybody here attended, or if not, probably saw on Facebook through the live, which was extraordinarily helpful. And what we did during that first class is we really broke down the text of Lecha, Dodi. That was delightful and fun and informative. However, I think, Linda Steinhorn's joining us, delightful. However, I think, for me personally, this class is going to be much more fun because there is more listening to music, listening to different interpretations, finding out the history behind some of these melodies and why we sing Lecha Dodi the way we sing Lecha Dodi. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. Perfect. Oh, and also some of this class is going to be me singing at you, so prepare yourselves accordingly for that as well. And before I forget, I am going to share sound because we have a lot of video clips. And I do ask that when we are watching a video to please mute yourself so that the sound does not get distorted. Does that sound good?
You might want to just mute all.
Yeah, maybe. I know, but then we can't have a conversation, Larry, and that's sad.
Well,
No.
people can unmute when they have something to say.
Yeah, that is a good point. However, unfortunately, I can't see everybody. Why can't I see everybody? Hold on, I'm going to stop sharing.
The screen.
Usually you can get a little block to the side. I don't know why that didn't happen.
Oh, if you have that block to the side, you can scroll through it. It'll only show.
Yeah, but I couldn't see anybody, not even the person talking. Well, you know what?
Okay.
It's what it is. Okay, So without further ado, Shira Madness, Session 1, Class 2, Lecha Dodi. So, as you recall from a couple of weeks ago, I brought up this noteworthy vocabulary. Really, the only one we focused on a couple of times ago was Kabbalah, which was the Jewish mysticism. However, today we're going to get into more of the musical terminology. So the first term, just to review, is nusach. And when I say nusach, that means the musical traditions of the community. When I say modes, those are the musical scales systems that define prayer in time, which, if you recall, by in time, I meant that based on what holiday it is or what day of the week it is, our tune for our tefillah ideally should change. And the last term that we're really focusing on today is Adonai Malach, which is the name of the Nusach mode. It's a combination of 1 and 2 of the Nusach mode that we use for Lecha Dodi, as well as the majority of Kabbalat Shabbat. So we have not 1, not 2, but 3 primary prayer modes. There are way more than these 3, but that gets into compound prayer modes, and that is a Jewish music theory class that I do not want to teach right now, friends. So, oh look, another friend, perfect. So this very first term that I want to focus on is Magen Avot. And this prayer mode is a major prayer mode, and it takes its name from the very central prayer of the Me'ain Sheva prayer in the concluding part of the Amidah on Friday night. So we also hear this Jewish prayer mode during weekday morning blessings. So just as an example of what this mode sounds like, to use Birkot HaShachar as an example, it would be Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani b'tzalmo. Right? Everybody recognizes that tune. That's a little bit familiar. And the reason why we use Magen Avot is that it is, the most delicate way of putting this? It's the most simple and the most low maintenance of all of the prayer modes, which is why we use it for weekday services when we want things to go by a little bit more quickly. It allows for a greater number of words to be spoken on a singular recit tone. And by recit tone, I mean 1 note in a scale that you would sing the same word on. So in English, this would be a good example. It would sound like this. This is what a recit tone is. I'm using the same note to sing a bunch of different words. Okay? I hope I explained that well. So being able to do that allows for faster davening, which is helpful for weekday services, especially chakras when you need to go to work. And also Magen Avot, which we use throughout Shabbat Mariv. And I think the reason why we use Magen Avot throughout Shabbat Mariv is because we just want to get home and eat our dinner. So it needs to be a little bit faster. The second prayer mode that we're going to be discussing is called Ahava Rabbah. And it takes its name from the blessings before the Shema in the Shachrit service. So the words that I'm talking about are Ahava Rabbah Ahavtanu Adonai Eloheinu. With an abundant love do you love us, Adonai our God. This prayer mode is the most Jewish sounding of the modes. It's also known as the Fragish mode. A notable time that we use the Ahava Rabbah mode is during the priestly benediction on Shabbat morning. And if we are trying to convey love, I do not know of a better part for that than Shabbat morning. And just to remind you of what that prayer mode sounds like, I'm going to sing it for you once I find what I'm looking for. Anybody know right off the bat where the priestly benediction is in Sim Shalom? Larry, I'm counting on you off the top of your head. Maybe. Let's see. No, that's not it. You know, I'm gonna go to my music theory book. That would be the most helpful. So Ahava Rabbah, that's Adonai Malach. Ahava Rabbah. Okay, this is what Ahava Rabbah sounds like. This is a good example. Hamechadesh betuvo b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit. Do you hear what I mean by the most Jewish sounding? That's what I meant by that. So this last prayer mode that we're going to be focusing on is called Adonai Malach. And this is named for the opening words of Psalm 93, which is one of the last Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat on Friday evening. The words that this is taken from Adonai Malach Geut Lavesh, the Lord reigns robed in majesty. So commentators agree that this mode generally conveys an ethos of grandeur and majesty, as opposed to Ahava Rabbah, which is more about love, and Magen Avot, which is, I don't want to say simplicity, but I guess simplicity is just kind of getting it done. So it makes sense that we use this final prayer mode, this Adonai Malach prayer mode, in the Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat, because we are trying to speak of God's reign. We are trying to speak about the wonders of creation, and as God is the source of salvation for all of creation. So majesty is definitely the tone we're going for. As an important side note, this Adonai Malach mode is also heard on Rosh Hashanah during Shofarot, which that service really is about the promise of redemption, as well as Malchuyot, which is proclaiming God's reign. Both things majestical, yes. And also, very bizarrely, this mode scale is heard again during confession on Erev Rosh Hashanah, on Vidui. And it was particularly fascinating to me that this same mode, this Adonai Malach, this Hashem Malach mode that we use to proclaim God's majesty is also the exact same scale mode that we use to convey the repentance of humankind. But that's going down an interesting road. Much to my great amusement, this Adonai Malach mode, yes, that's what I was trying to say. Very ironically, and much to my great amusement, the Adonai Malach mode the Adonai Malach prayer is not chanted in Adonai Malach mode, which is such a delicious irony. Rather, this Adonai Malach prayer is actually chanted in Magen Avot, that very first prayer mode that I discussed, the one that we use for Birkot HaShachar. Baruch da. So why do I think this is? Why is this rather? The reason is from a Chazanic practice of anticipation. So Jews believe in the cycle of that Jewish living and learning is a cycle that is eternal and perpetual. And we demonstrate this by incorporating something of the upcoming occasion or the text into our religious ritual, which is kind of a harbinger of what lies ahead. So do you remember how I said that Shabbat Mariv is davened in Magen Avot mode? Well, we daven Adonai Malach in Magen Avot mode to show that we're almost at Mariv, but we're not quite there yet. So that is a very fast breakdown of the Jewish prayer modes. I could do a whole entire series of these classes just on these three modes. They are deliciously complicated, and especially if you're not so musically inclined. Even if you are musically inclined, they're difficult. But I don't think I sang you a version of what Adonai Malach sounds like just to put that into your ear. So I'm going to do that. Oh, this is a good one. Adonai Malach Lavesh, Lavesh Adonai Os Hitazar definitely more major sounding than Ahava Rabbah, which was more Jewishy, minor, mysterious, and then the first one, the Magen Avot. So that was a lot. We're going to stop for a second so that you can see my face. Do you have any questions about the bunch of Hebrew and musical terminology I just threw at you? Because it was a lot. Yes, no, maybe so, don't be shy. Don't worry, guys, we're going to get into the fun part. I just had to cover the technicals first. Okay, we're going to jump in. Let me go back to sharing my screen. Share screen. Okay. Let's go to the next page, please. There we go. Perfect. So, this wonderful, handsome man that you see a picture of here, who you might even recognize, is Cantor Saul Zim, or Cantor Solomon Zimmelman, who I have the great privilege of being his student. He was born on August 17th, 1939 in Queens. He still lives in Queens. And Cantor Saul Zim, or as I just affectionately call him, Saul, Saul aims to preserve traditional prayer motifs, these nusach that we're talking about, all the while empowering clergy and the congregation to balance the nusach with congregational singing. So Saul's belief is that when it comes to prayer, it is absolutely the cantor's job to lead everybody, but the congregation should also have a role in being active participants in prayer. And so he tries to compose his nusach based in tradition, but makes it melodic so that the congregation can follow along and eventually sing along with him or with the cantor. And so in his words, he calls this phenomenon musical unity, which I think is really beautiful. So as an example of the nusach that we sing for Lecha Dodi, it sounds like this, once I can get to my sheet music. There it is. So you will notice that when I'm singing these words that you all know, it will not sound like a song. It's going to sound like nusach. It's going to sound like what Cantor Spindler does at the beginning and end of every single prayer. It does not sound like very Lecha Dodi to me. So here's a good example, Shamor v'Zachor. Shamor v'Zachor b'dibur echad, hishmiyanu el ha'meyuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, v'shemu tiferet v'litila. It's beautiful, but it's nusach. It's not melody. And do you remember last week how I also said in the third verse of Lecha Dodi, Mikdash Melech, as well as Lo Tavoshi, it switches from a major mode to minor. Does anybody remember the reason why? In those two verses, we're discussing the destruction of the temple. And so it goes from a very positive sounding major melody to turning minor. So the nusach for those two sounds like this. Mikdash Melech Melucha Kumitei Mitoch Hafecha Rav Nach Shevet Be'emek Hamacha Vehu Yachamol Alayich Chemela. Again, it's a very beautiful nusach, but it's not a melody. So why do we even bother having Lecha Dodi in a nusach form? Well, tradition. But we really don't use this nusach ever. Sorry, Salzin. I love you dearly. What we do is use congregational melodies. And this, my friends, this is where the fun begins. I'm so excited. So I'm going to share my screen with you again. And we're going to go to the next slide here. So the very first melody for Lecha Dodi, we hardly employ, like I said, we hardly employ this Adonai Malach Nusach when it comes time to sing Lecha Dodi. Instead, congregational melodies are used. I think the reason for this is because, as beautiful as that Nusach was, that Saul's Nusach is, and other Nusach too by the other famed cantorial composers, they just don't allow for the congregation to join in. And when we think of Lecha Dodi, this is a song that everyone wants to welcome Shabbat. It needs to be a united effort from the entire congregation. And so that's why I personally believe why we use congregational melodies for Lecha Dodi. And so the first melody known for Lecha Dodi originates by none other than Yehuda Halevi, who's the author of the Kuzari, HaKuzari, which I studied in college. So when I found this piece of information, I was like, oh, he comes back to haunt me again. But Yehuda Halevi really is the definition of Renaissance man, not only because of the time that he lived, but he was a renowned Spanish poet, a philosopher, a physician, and a musician who composed more than 800 poems during his lifetime. I do not know how this man had enough time in his life to do all the things that he did. I don't even have time to do the dishes, is what I tell myself. But he was very accomplished. And the very first melody for Lecha Dodi is still sung in certain Sephardic and Moorish communities. And the tune that was used, unfortunately, I could not find anywhere. However, I decided, since he was Spanish and it would be appropriate to listen to how the Sephardim sing Lecha Dodi. And so this very first melody that I found, and this is not the original melody for Lecha Dodi, I could not find it anywhere, is by this amazing chazan from the Spanish and Portuguese synagogue in Canada. And apparently they've been singing this version of Lecha Dodi since like the 1700s. So it is very old, not as ancient as Lecha Dodi itself, the words, but anyway, without further ado, I'm going to press play. I did press share sound. Hopefully everyone will be able to hear this. I'll play like 5 seconds of it and then stop to make sure everyone can hear it.
Lecha Dodi likerat kala pen Shabbat nekabela.
Okay. Quick pause. Did everybody hear that? Just give me a thumbs up. Okay.
Yep. We heard it.
Good to know that works. All right, we're going back.
Lecha Dodi likerat kala pen Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likerat kala pen Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad yishmi'anu el ha'meyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shemo tiferet v'litila Lecha Dodi likerat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela Lecha Dodi likerat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelecha Ki mekor ha'beracha Merosh mikedem nesucha Sof ma'aseh b'machashava techila Lecha Dodi likerat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
So clearly he has amazing tastes in headwear right off the bat, and also a gorgeous voice. And some of you might be wondering, okay, but what's the difference between the nusach he just sang us and the congregation and the melody that he just sang us? The nusach, these prayer scales, they change for every single verse. Every single verse has its own different melody, which is why it's so hard for congregations as a whole to follow along with that. These congregational melodies, like the one that Chazan just sang, by the time they're exactly the same for the chorus of Lecha Dodi as well as the verses. So by the time he's halfway through, you know what he's singing. You can kind of hum along. Maybe you're dancing a little bit. And I think that's what's so important, to go back to what Saul Zim said, this musical unity we're trying to attain. That's what congregational melodies allow us to accomplish. So this is the part of this I'm about to share with you, this part of the presentation that I'm very excited about. Okay, come on. Go to the next slide. There you go. So Lecha Dodi, early European interpretations. So Henry Purcell, who is a very famous English composer who lived in the 17th century, his operas are incredible, but he wrote this march called Lili Bolero, which became one of the biggest hits in 17th century Europe. Guys, I'm telling you, this song was like, what's a good comparison? It was like Stairway to Heaven. Like, everybody listened to the song, knew what this song was. Everybody was humming it down the streets. It was like the bulletin boards, like top 40 hits. Like, this is what Lili Bolero was. So what did the Jews do? The Jews heard this song, this Lili Bolero march that everybody was singing, like this secular piece of music, and they took it and they put it to the words of Lecha Dodi. But what I find so entertaining about this is that the song Lili Bolero, it depicts, it's about two Irish Catholic men discussing what would happen if a Catholic monarch were allowed to remain on the English throne. So this song, this Lili Bolero song, literally has nothing to do with Judaism whatsoever. It is in fact about Catholic monarchs. And yet, this is one of the Lili Bolero song was one of the very first tunes that were used, one of the most popular tunes for Lecha Dodi in the 16 and 1700s. And also, of course, my beloved Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart wrote a beautiful aria called Se vuol ballare. It's actually called, and from the Marriage of Figaro. And that aria itself is, it's about mocking, a servant mocking his master. And that little piece of the opera, the Se vuol ballare, this one song, this aria, became so popular in the culture that Jews once again took the melody from this and put it to Lecha Dodi, which I just think is so entertaining, is using these songs that we don't typically think of Jewish and then putting them into our liturgy. So I wanted you to hear, first of all, this Lili Bolero song, which is extremely catchy. And I'm not saying the next time I lead Kabbalat Shabbat I'm going to use this, but I'm very tempted.
And he will have all the English roads,
And I don't know if any of you were even paying attention to those lyrics. It literally says Jesus Christ in the lyrics, and they still took it and put it to Lecha Dodi. But you can see why. It's catchy. Lili bolero do 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 do. I can see it. Bovi v'shalom ateret bal. It makes perfect sense to me. Perfect sense. And so now to show you the Mozart. And of course, this is very near and dear to my heart because I'm a Mozartian soprano, so I can't help myself but rock out to the most wonderful Mozart.
Ballare, signor continuo, se vuol ballare, signor continuo, il chitarrino le suonerò, il chitarrino le suonerò, sì, le suonerò, sì, le suonerò. Se vuol venire nella mia scuola a capriola insegnerò. Se vuol venire nella mia scuola a capriola insegnerò, sì, insegnerò, sì, insegnerò. Saprò, 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 ma piano, piano, piano. E io mi arrecano dissimulando, scoprir potrò. L'arte schermendo, l'arte adoperando, di qua pungendo, di là scherzando, tutte le macchine rovescerò, rovescerò. L'arte schermendo, l'arte adoperando, di qua pungendo, di là scherzando, tutte le macchine rovescerò, tutte le macchine rovescerò, tutte le macchine rovescerò, rovescerò, rovescerò. Signor continuo, se vuol ballare, signor continuo, il chitarrino le suonerò, il chitarrino le suonerò, sì, le suonerò, sì, le suonerò.
So, of course, not that whole entire aria was used, but of course, the very beginning, that's very catchy. You know, the dum bum bum ba da da dum bum 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 ba. I can also see Lecha Dodi being sung to that pretty easily. Lecha Dodi likrat kala. So we have not one but two songs that I almost say they're almost anti-religion. There's the subject matter is inappropriate, you know, to put these beloved words to, and yet we use them. And another great example of this, of these modern tunes, you know, being shaped for Lecha Dodi is, I'm sure all of you have heard the Maccabees rendition of Lecha Dodi, where they sing Lecha Dodi to Hallelujah, which is beautiful. But it also, if you look at Leonard Cohen's lyrics, they're also not the most kosher, so to speak. And I love the way they sing, with how the Maccabees do Lecha Dodi. But what I actually want to do is some shameless promotion of a very good friend of mine who decided to put the words of Lecha Dodi to Dolly Parton's Jolene. And the reason she did this is her synagogue was having a Kabbalat Shabbat Friday night themed dinner, which they called Kentucky Fried Shabbat. So I'm going to share with all of you how she put the words of Lecha Dodi to Jolene, a song that is about a woman trying to steal another woman's man. No, wrong thing, Zahava. There you go.
So I hope I'll see.
It's a bop. It's a tune. It's fun. It's not what you would expect. But boy, it's catchy, right? So this is one of the phenomenons I've found while researching Lecha Dodi, is this idea of taking secular songs and putting the tune of Lecha Dodi to it. And some people do it really well. And it's been a practice that's literally been around since the 17th century, if not prior. But the earliest renditions I found were the 17th century. So moving on to the next general theme that I found was sharing screen again. Thank you, Sarah. She will be very entertained that I used her music in this class. So, of course, would be the Hasidic interpretations. So, very commonly in Hasidic and Chabad spheres, nigunim are used as the source of melodies for Lecha Dodi. So, a popular nigun in Chabad is something called the Yifrach B'Yomov nigun, which was composed in the early 1980s in honor of the Rebbe's 71st birthday. So, much to my great amusement, while I was doing my research for this, I found out this was a thing that Chabadniks used to do when the Rebbe was alive. Every single year, they competed to write these different nigunim, these different melodies. And the term nigun is supposed to be these melodies that bring your soul out of you. Like they're supposed to reach within you and lighten your soul. Very like that seemed to me like very Kabbalistic thinking, which makes sense for Chabad. So what they used to do is these rabbis would compete over the course of the year to write a singular nigun And if that nigun were chosen by the Rebbe, it would become the nigun of the year, and they would sing it at all of the Chabad conferences and at these birthday celebrations, and whenever they had these massive Shabbatons together. So apparently in the 1980s, when the Rebbe turned 71, this Yifrach Nigun, which is still very popular with Chabadniks today, and also in Israel too, in the Chabad communities, this is when this became popular. So, does that melody sound familiar to anyone? Yada-da, yada-yada. So, what the Chabadniks do, and also Hasidim, they try and use these nigunim, and they put the words of Lecha Dodi to them. So if any of you were at the Kabbalat Shabbat that I led a couple of weeks ago, I actually used this technique for one of my versions of Lecha Dodi that I sang. Uh-oh, Lila's having a temper tantrum. Something about hurting a muscle. I think we're gonna be okay. So now in the neo-Hasidic movement, and also through a wonderful organization called Hadar, a lot of female rebbeim and female songwriters are beginning to write their own nigunim. And this wonderful rabbi, Rabbi Deborah Saxmans, who works for Hadar, wrote a beautiful one called the Ramzor Nigun, which goes Yalla 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 la 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 yo la yalla 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 la la la. So I decided to take that nigunim that she wrote, which has no words, and put Lecha Dodi to it. And this is a very common trend, a thing to do. However, going back to my wonderful mentor, Saul Zinn, he tries to take this idea of having these Chassidish nigunim sounding like old time melodies and making them standardized. And so I'm going to show all of you one of his Chassidish melodies for Lecha Dodi, which is not at all a nigun, not at all. However, he wrote the song to sound like one to keep up with this trend that the Chabadniks were doing in like the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. So, sharing my screen again. No, stop playing it. Go to the next one. There we go. Perfect.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה זכור בדיבור אחד ישמענו כעם אחד השם אחד ושמו אחד לשם ולתפארת הבית אליו
So, not Hasidish, not from Germany. This was very much written in Queens, but it sounds like something right out of Fiddler on the Roof. And definitely, I think, does a very good job of melding this this musical unity that we're trying to go for, where he is still highlighting the cantor, but the congregation is very much involved, and the sound is it's very soulful, and I hate to say it, but it's very Jewish. It really is. It's very Ashkenaz. And then Debbie Friedman comes in, and Jeff Klepper comes in, and Craig Taubman comes in, and they flip this whole entire idea completely on its head. So back to sharing my screen. And I'm really going to focus only on, as much as I love me some Debbie Friedman, and I do, I'm really going to focus on Jeff Klepper. And the reason why is I can't believe I'm saying this as a future Chazan, God willing, but I'm saying this. Jeff Klepper kind of made the traditional role of cantor no longer needed. He wanted to put the power in the hands of the congregation and in the power of the Kehillah. And he did this through a lot of call and response songs by using a guitar. When he sang, he was actually one of the first song leaders. He may have actually even termed he created the idea really of song leaders. And instead of doing this trend of taking melodies from other songs like we saw with the Le Nozze di Figaro and Jolene and Le Libulero, Jeff Klepper and his contemporaries started writing melodies for Lecha Dodi that were meant for Lecha Dodi. And in this recording that you'll hear of his Lecha Dodi, you will hear him very much trying to give the power to the Kehillah, of trying to get them very heavily involved in what he is doing, so to make them a part of the prayer service in a way I think that is very moving and very dynamic. So let's give it a listen.
Penei Shabbat nekabla, Penei Shabbat nekabla. Try it. Lecha Dodi ligrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabla. Lecha Dodi ligrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabla. Your turn. Lecha Dodi ligrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabla. Lecha Dodi ligrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabla. Shamor v'zachor, v'dibur echad, Ishmianu, El HaMiyuchad, Adonai echad, U'shemo echad, L'shemu tiferet v'litila, Lecha Dodi ligrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabla. Lecha Dodi ligrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabla. Boi v'shalom, Ateret bala, Gam בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה והדודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לחדודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לחדודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לחדודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה
So, do you hear what I meant by the call and response? Very much trying to get the congregation involved. It's fun, it's upbeat. I see the appeal. For me, it doesn't scream Shabbat. It doesn't scream Lecha Dodi, especially after we went through all of that text last week. But I see where that type of music is necessary. It's great for engagement. It's beautiful. However, I'm loving this current trend that is happening right now, and I'm going to go to the conservative movement's golden boy, Josh Warshawski. If you've ever heard of him, I strongly recommend you listen to his album called Chavarai Nevarech that just came out. It is phenomenal, and he, like Jeff Klepper, writes his melodies to fit the tefillah, and he writes his melodies so that the emotions of the words come first. And if any of you were at my Kabbalat Shabbat a couple weeks ago, I sang his melody. Somebody, I can't remember who it was, I feel like it was Ed, maybe, came up to me and said, that sounds very American, and it does. There are parts of it that are very American, but it also is very soulful. So I'm going to share that with you next. And I'm sorry that I'm kind of skipping over things. I really just want to cover everything. And there's not enough time. It's not enough time. So, Rabbi Josh Warshawski, and he got his start at Camp Ramah, actually, which I just love. So this is one of his Lecha Dodis, which he calls Hachama.
Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Penei Shabbat, Kabbalah. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Penei Shabbat, Kabbalah. Lecha Dodi, תבושי ולא תקמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תמי. בך יחסו עניי עמי, ונבנתה עיר על תילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, Shabbat, the Kabbalah. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Penei Shabbat, the Kabbalah. V'hayu im shisa shosayich, v'ra בסיס עלייך אלוהייך כבשוש חתם על כלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת קבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת קבלה ימין ושמאל תפרוצי ואת אדוני תריצי על יד איש בן פרצי ונשמחה ונגילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת קבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת קבלה.
So I'm gonna stop it there, even though I could literally listen to that on repeat for like the rest of my life and be happy. But with these last few minutes remaining of our time together, I just kind of I wanted to open it up to you, and that's not what I meant to do. Go back. Thank you, computer. I wanted to open it up to you and ask, which interpretation of all of this, of all of these songs that I showed you, of which there were 7, did you find the most thought-provoking or intriguing? And if you don't want to answer that, which one screamed Shabbat for you? There's no wrong answer. I'm just curious as to your thoughts.
I like the last one.
Yeah, me too. It's a bop, isn't it, Marcia?
It's just, yeah, really good.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I'll put it in the chat.
And it's really, and it's an easy one to learn for everyone, you know?
Yeah. Here, I'm just gonna put that in there. Rabbi Josh, or I can never say his last name. Last week I was meeting with Rabbi Adam, and I was like, "Have you listened to Rabbi Josh Wachowski's songs?" And he's like, "Are you trying to say Wachowski?" I'm like, "I can't say it." Warshawski, and he has a brand new album called Chavarai Nevarech. Strongly recommend. It's not how you spell Nevarech, Zahava. Nevarech. There we go.
You know, Zahava,
Yes, Bernie.
I would say there are so many beautiful ways to sing Lecha Dodi that it really depends kind of on, you know, on different days, you may be in a different frame of mind, and the holiday may have different meaning. So I wouldn't put I wouldn't get behind any one of those tunes. It really depends on where you are at the time you come to shul.
Bernie, I respect that too, because that was another thing I came across while I was looking into this. Depending on the communities, especially in Germany and Poland, they would change their Lecha Dodis based on the time of year it was, very similar to how Nusach changes. So there was a different tune during the 3 weeks. There was a different tune during the Omer. As Hanukkah was coming around, they would sing something to the tune of Rock of Ages. So
Okay.
yes, that is a totally legitimate answer, and I agree with you. It really does depend on how we're feeling. Sometimes we're much more connected to Shabbat on a certain week than we are other weeks, and that's okay. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about having so many different kinds of melodies to go along with it, because it really can help us tune into whatever emotion we are feeling, and doesn't necessarily need to reflect that text that we learned about. Anybody else have anything they want to share with like the singular minute? And also, I want to, anybody, Mona, was that, I saw a hand. No, I didn't. Yes, Kathy.
One of the things that I had a question, when you were talking about Yehuda Halevi having a tune for Lecha Dodi, is it still in use?
That's what I was trying to figure out. And the thing that is particularly entertaining is in old Sidurim, there is a note to use Judah Halevi's melody, which predates the text of Lecha Dodi by like 500 years, which is remarkable. Could not find it anywhere on YouTube. Apparently it's still used in certain Moorish communities, and I even sent it out to like my Chazan listserv. I was like, does anybody know what it is? And most people were like, you're crazy, we don't know what you're talking about.
Oh dear.
Oh dear.
That's disappointing. So I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of his.
Yes, I am too. The Kuzari, even, I think I did get actually an A in that class, so I shouldn't say that Judah Halevi's out to get me. But whew, that was a doozy. It's a great piece of philosophical work, don't get me wrong. Anyway, before we close on Lecha Dodi, thank you all for joining me. Of course, if you have any questions about what we did today or want some certain recordings or recommendations, always feel free to email me, text, or call me. And it is always such a pleasure to learn with all of you. So thank you for spending this time with me.
Yasher koach.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was terrific.
Wonderful.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
And may the
You're
rest of
such a
your...
good teacher.
I try,
Yes,
Bernie.
excellent.
Thank you. Can you tell my 6th grade math students that for me, would you? What was I going to say? Ugh, I can't remember. Oh, that's what I was going to say. May your week be as musical as this evening was. All right, goodbye.
Thank you.
Oh, I still have a question. One more
Oh,
question.
Bernie, yes,
Oh, good.
yes.
One more.
What is your favorite Lecha Dodi?
Mm.
Will you sing it for us?
Well, you all heard it. I'm currently obsessed with Josh Wachowski's version. However, the one that I was raised with in my Reconstructionist synagogue, which I always come back to, is Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekama.
That's what we use now.
Right, but I know that all of you know that, and so
it's
I
beautiful,
wanted to.
yeah.
It's a classic, and you can't get rid of the classics because they're good. But I love that one because that's nostalgic, and there is power in nostalgia, is there not? All right, goodbye, friends. I will see you on Shabbos, if not.
Bye. Happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's right, Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Happy and healthy.
And guys, come to shul on Shabbos to see me do my first sermon. It's gonna be a hoot. All right. Bye, friends.
You to work.
Yeah.
Right.
Love it. Okay, bye.
Happy Thanksgiving. Take care. Happy Thanksgiving.
Good night, everyone. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.